Welcome back. We're here in Orlando, Florida at the National Ethanol Conference, and we are going to take a look now at a very important part of the whole picture, not only for the ethanol industry, but really look at the auto industry and the environmental impact. We're talking about air quality concerns there. There have been a lot of questions raised about just what role does ethanol play in air quality emissions from automobiles. We've often talked about how that should be a strong suit for ethanol, but some have questioned that. So we want to get into all that here on this segment of our program today with the president and CEO of ICM, Dave VanderGriend, joins us. And Dave, thank you for joining us. And I know that ICM has done a lot of testing, new engine testing, a lot of research looking at the air quality issue.
Yes, we have. We started an initiative, I guess you'd say, about 2 years ago of wanting to really understand what the auto industry, the OEMs, want and what the refining industry, the oil companies, do. And we felt once we understood that a little bit better, we would understand where ethanol can fit into the marketplace best and what direction we need to be promoting from an ethanol industry. What we found throughout the last 2 years was really quite interesting, quite enlightening, and to a certain degree quite disturbing about how fuel is made and what the OEMs are looking for and stuff like this. And what the OEMs told us is that we need octane. We need you to get us octane because we are being required to improve mileage and we are being required to lower the emissions off of vehicles. And we can't do this with this 87 octane fuel that we're being forced to build a car engine around. And it takes us about 5 years to design the next generation engine. So we need 5 years advance that what's going to be here in 5 years so we can build to that. Okay, so we took that and then took a look at what does the refineries do. And what refineries do is they make a gasoline blend that nobody really understands other than them, especially not the consumer. And when the auto industry started way back in the 1900s, gasoline was not very good fuel because they had no octane. So, if Henry Ford and Rockefeller could have ever gotten along, Henry Ford built the first true flex-fueled vehicle was the Model T Ford, where you could run on gasoline or you could run on ethanol. And Henry was a big believer in the ethanol side because you could grow it wherever the vehicles were. Of course, that didn't match up with what Rockefeller wanted to do, so his goal was to get rid of the ethanol industry, which he did very well. Through prohibition that he helped fund and things like that a lot of people don't know about, which is some interesting little trivia. And at that point in time, they came up with a thing called lead. Tetraethyl lead was then blended with gasoline, which gave the octane and allowed the gasoline to function very well. And that was then added to the fuel all the way up into the 80s and 90s. But again, in about 1960, it was determined that lead in gasoline was not good for health. And so they began the process. The EPA was formed in 1970. One of their main objectives was to clean up air around automotive. And so I said, we got to get the lead out and we got to go to unleaded gas. They started that project in about 1980s and finished it up in about, I think, 1991. It was about a 16-year process where they got rid of all the lead. Well, the petroleum guys replaced that lead with aromatics. Now aromatics are they're not like perfume. Aromatics doesn't really mean aromatics like smell good. It means like aromatics is a higher octane portion of gasoline. And when they went to oxygenates in after that, in 1990 Clean Air Act, the petroleum solution to that was MTBE. MTBE at 15% inclusion would do what ethanol would do at 7.5% inclusion into the fuel blend as far as oxygen requirement. But again, what did they find out after that is that MTBE is a health hazard and water quality contaminant and things like this. So MTBE was moved out, and so they moved back in with more aromatics, which is really your BTX aromatics called benzene, toluene, and xylene. Well, now here, when they had to get out of the MTBE, they were forced at that point in time to add 10% ethanol. It was the only alternative they had for the oxygenate. Well, I think at that point in time, the refineries went back to the drawing board and said, okay, if we're stuck with it, what do we do? And what they figured out was, okay, if we put in 10% ethanol, because of the way gasoline is formulated at the refinery, we can add more high boiler, what they call things that boil above 300 degrees, high boilers into gasoline, because ethanol boils well below the midpoint. So I can put in a bunch of stuff well above the midpoint and still meet my formula. So they are in compliance on the gas that they make, but the effect on the consumer, the person driving up and down the road in urban traffic, start-stop driving, like downtown or interstate or traffic jam, is that you do not completely burn the fuel, and the cars are designed to do excess fueling, fuel enrichment they call it, so that it doesn't knock. So the car sounds good to the person driving it. So all of that unburned hydrocarbon goes out the tailpipe in the form of fine particulate. That fine particulate goes directly into your system, through your lungs, and right into your bloodstream. And I think when you start looking at what has happened to public health over the last 20 to 30 years, there is significant increases in all areas of public health just over the last 20, 30 years, connected a lot to the aromatics.
So when people question the benefits of ethanol environmentally as far as tailpipe emissions, that's interesting what you've said. Basically, it sounds like the increase in these aromatics causing the problems, kind of almost offsetting the benefits we've been getting environmentally from ethanol.
Oh, that was the other thing, that the frustrating thing that we learned is that what they were doing with gasoline blending was they were not adding 10% ethanol to gasoline. So you could say, I want ethanol or I don't want ethanol. No, what they were doing is they were making the base gasoline a lower quality to where it had to have the ethanol just to meet minimum standards. Well, now you don't see the benefit of ethanol, because if I've got a bowl of cereal and I'm putting half honey and half sugar to get the right sweetness that I want, well, if I take out the honey and use more sugar, I can get to the same spot. Well, if I left the honey and then added more sugar, I'd be a lot sweeter. So that is really what has happened, and they've been effectively able to blame ethanol, lower mileage, lower this, lower that, when in fact the ethanol had nothing to do with it. It is everything to do with the base stock that they started with.
That's very interesting. We're talking with Dave VanderGriend, President and CEO of ICM. All right, so moving forward, how do we deal with this issue then?
Well, I think what our goal is to begin the process of really educating the public about something they know nothing about. They don't understand because it's so well hidden, so well disguised.
And they've been told to blame ethanol.
Yeah. So it works. You know, if you really say, let's compare this to smoking. Okay, smoking you can see, smoking you can smell. Okay, so they've eliminated smoking and all started out in all public buildings, and now pretty well all private buildings that have public access are smoking restricted. But the flip side of it is you are a whole lot better off in a smoky bar than you are going to be on Main Street. But you can't see it, and you, for the most part, can't smell it. So you don't know that you are in a lethal environment when you're on Main Street. And we talk about coal plants. Well, their stack is 250 feet in the air. Where do you think the smokestack for a car is? It's about knee height, and they're all around you. They're in front of you, behind you. You can't get upwind from them. It's all there, so you are stuck in that environment, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you don't know it. You are being subjected to secondhand auto exhaust, and you have no alternative. And the petroleum guys have disguised this very well, because all the cars in the U.S. are certified on a fuel you can't buy. They use a fuel called Indolene, costs $6 or plus a gallon, and that's how they certify a car for both mileage and emissions. The gas you buy at the corner C-store is twice as high in emissions and obviously a lower octane. Have you ever wondered why you get the window sticker on your car and it says 28 miles to gallon highway, and you take it on the highway and you get 24? That's because the gas you bought at the station is an 87 octane. The gas that car was certified on is 93.
Real quick then, how do we change this?
Well, the opportunity that we have here to influence this is for the ethanol industry to be able to have access to the consumer, so that the consumer, once he or she is aware of it, can select higher blends that won't cost any more money. We could today reduce, with today's price of toluene, today's price of ethanol, gasoline could be 23 cents a gallon, 33 cents a gallon cheaper at the gas station. So all of that benefit from ethanol is being put in the pockets of the refinery, not in the pockets of the consumer. So the consumer is being penalized when they do not have access to a better fuel.
So the move to E15, how will that impact that?
The move to E15 is a good way to, again, utilize more ethanol. The problem with E15 from the OEMs, from the car manufacturers, they're saying, you didn't give us anything. You didn't help us. Because what's going to happen is the refineries are now going to make a lower quality fuel for the extra 5% ethanol, and we're going to end up in the exact same spot we were in before, and we can't meet emissions without, bluntly said, without falsifying the records with fuel testing of fuel you can't buy.
So the challenge remains.
The challenge remains. The example I gave in the presentation, I said, what do you think when somebody said pure beef hot dog? Now, do you think that hot dog was made with ground up T-bone, or do you think it was a ground up old cow? Cheek and tongue and everything else. You really don't know. But what we're ending up with as a consumer, they are buying their gasoline. They're paying for steak, and they're getting cheeks.
Dave, thanks a lot. Dave VanderGriend, President, CEO of ICM. This is AgriTalk.